You know what? I thought it was full circle coming in doing Freeway Rick, but to sit here and interview you after my homeboy, shout out my boy Meta, shout out
Joe Moses.
Yeah, shout out Joe Moses, Blake. I think it was another guy, Dom. We walked down the street to you, and they actually told me who you were and what you were doing, what you was about, and I should be on your podcast or whatever.
Oh, you're talking about that. I said Joe Moses because I thought you were listing off people who've been on this podcast.
That
Whoops.
too, but it don't matter. Shout out Joe Moses, he the homie. But yeah, so
Shout out Moses. He was in the Bible.
him too.
Split the sea.
But you don't believe in God, so don't.
I believe the Bible is a book. I just don't think it really happens, like Lord of the Rings.
You don't think it really happened?
No, not most of it.
Some of that shit.
You think the sea got split?
No. But yeah, shout out the homies for let me know who you were, and I gave you my number, and you ghosted me, and now I'm here. What the hell?
Let me just speak on that.
Yes, sir.
Let's speak on that. So, especially at that time period in my life, like now, I have people coming up to me saying they want interviews, whatever. It's kind of like more limited because I'm not just like out in public all the time. But especially at that time period when I was on Melrose, it was just every day people asking me for interviews over and over and over. And it's weird because if I had got your story at that time and you had been like, listen, I used to be a backup dancer for this famous artist. I came into the picture. I protected him. People wanted to split his wig. I split the Red Sea. I made sure it didn't happen, etc. Now I have this clothing store. Well, actually, when you hollered at me, it was still Last Kings, right?
It was still Last Kings,
Okay.
and your ass walked in Last Kings. It's talking about you walking the block, trying to meet everybody on the block, and I'm like, who is this bald head white guy coming in the store with three white guys? And I'm like, whatever. And they was like, that's Adam, and I'm like, who the fuck is that? And we went down to your store.
See, that's always my problem, though, is I meet people. They have amazing stories, but sometimes it's just like information overload, or I don't really get a chance to really examine them and figure it out. That's honestly one thing that's great about having you, AD, Duno, et cetera, around, is that you guys get in my ear. You say, hey, this person only has so many followers, but they got a crazy-ass story. You should do it. And, I mean, yeah, so.
Luckily, around that time, I didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
So I didn't give a shit about you really ghosting me. My little brother said you ghosted him, too.
Who's your little brother?
Man, Big Deal Meeks, man. Shout out Big Deal Meeks. He was like, man, he ain't answering my DM either. I'm gonna show you his Instagram too. I'm like, what? He was like, I was hitting him, the nigga just ignored me, man. Fuck that nigga Adam.
I mean,
bruh.
just to put in perspective, like, and I hate explaining this because it's like I figure most people know this, but it's like if I were to go and look through my DMs for the day, I would probably have like a couple hundred message requests, and I don't even look at it for like 3-4 days at a time. So then I do go look at it, and I'm like, scrolling through 600 messages, and like they're kind of almost all like either like, yo, check out my SoundCloud, or like, here's my video, or I'm a big fan, etc. And like I fuck with it, but like it's really hard to stand out when you're just showing up in the Instagram inbox. And I don't even see a lot of it. The other day I was looking for a number in my phone, so I scrolled all the way out to October, and I'm fucking going through my text from October. And there are so many people I left on red who were hitting me up about stuff that was really important to them. And sometimes I feel like, holy shit, like I'm a huge asshole for not giving all these different people the time of day that they need. But then at the same time, the other perspective I have on it is I gotta respect my own mental health and not drive myself crazy trying to get back to every single last person, even though I do try to do that. But at the same time, I realize at a certain point I can't be everything to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, back then, I'm glad I didn't do that back then because I was researching you a bit back then, and I was in a different space in my life doing a whole bunch of shit, and then you were at a different space in your life. I think you was just kind of like starting this up and getting ready and gearing this shit up, and I was doing a lot of, looking at your interviews and shit like that, and I'm like, you know what, Adam was a fucking weirdo 4 or 5 years ago. I was sitting there like, he is so trying to like be in tune with this culture shit, and he's like doesn't have it all right now.
Turn the
He
headphones
doesn't
off.
have it all right now, and it's just like, damn, my boy was a fucking weirdo, and I would have
Anything
been able to
stand out
talk.
to you?
I would. You were just like so hunched. You was just like hunched back, and you was just like fucking goofy, and you had a fucking dad hat on, and it was just like, Adam is a fucking goofball right now.
I haven't like watched old interviews in so long, but when I do, I'm always amazed by how eager I seemed.
You
I'm
were
like,
super
I'm leaning
eager.
forward. I'm like this.
Yeah,
I'm talking hella fast. I'm trying to stuff like a million sentences into each question. I'm like, bro, I'm so glad that I've like fallen back a little bit and I'm like more laid back.
Bro, you got
now.
way more swag right now. You were fucking crossing your leg, doing some fucking. You was doing this shit.
I still
like,
cross my leg.
You was doing this shit in the interview. I'm like, oh hell no, I couldn't have spoke to that Adam.
I feel cool.
There's no fucking way I could have spoke to that Adam, man.
All right, guys, we hit 50,000 subscribers. Our next goal is 100,000 subscribers. So make sure you click that button to subscribe. We appreciate y'all very, very much. Thank you.